Good morning. It's Saturday morning cartoons. Love is the law, love under will. Anyway, here we are. And today's talk is based on rare official classroom papers from the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth. Now, the reason I'm doing this today is because it demonstrates Kabbalistic thinking. Okay, now when I say Kabbalistic thinking, to me, that's what Kabala is really all about. It's a way that helps you use logic and inspiration to rise above logic. Okay, in Kabbalistic lingo, it's how to use your ruach, your powers of intellect, the part of your soul that is the intellect that is thinking about existence, to rising above that, using the tools of the ruach to rise above the ruach into the world of more or less being itself. Instead of thinking about life, rising above to living a life is sort of and so to do that, okay, the Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford somehow or other got a hold of these ancient classroom documents. Okay, this is all chronicled in the Chicken Kabbalah of Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford, which I'm sure all of you have at least one copy in your library, so you might want to get it down on the shelf to follow along. But here's 3 steps that will demonstrate how the common diagram, the tree of life, or the schematic, the tree of life. Modern Kabbalists use it all the time. They use it in discussion. It's a way to, it provides us a vocabulary of concepts concerning consciousness from Godhead to your head. That's convenient for all of us. But how did it develop? Because there's several trees of life, but here's one example. And these test papers or essay papers from the students of the ancient Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth, or Zippy, okay. And the class is Kabbalistic Thinking 101. And the class master is Rabbi Milton Rowe. If you say it fast, it's Milton Rowe. Class number 1. Okay, this is Adar 20, the 23rd, 520 BC. Now, obviously, these are a forgery, because if it was actually 200 or 520 BC, they wouldn't be saying BC. Be that as it may, here's the text for meditation, and it's from Genesis 1:27. And created the Elohim Adam, in the image of Elohim created they them, male and female created they them. Okay, and here's the postulate. Each one of us is made in the image of Deity. And the assignment is, think about yourself, then write a 300-word essay on the creative nature of God. And here's the winning essay submitted by Shechaniah, son of Yehiel. When Rabbi Rowe gave us the assignment to think about ourselves and then write an essay on the creative nature of God, I was sure I would not be able to do it. But then I started to think. The text says the Elohim created Adam, or, if you will, the human race, in the image of the Elohim. We are not told that snakes or aardvarks or fish or worms or any other animals or plants were created in the image of the Elohim. It seems to me that the question that begs asking is, what separates human beings from other animals? I think I have the answer. At least I have an answer. Thumbs. We have thumbs. Sure, apes and monkeys and a few lemurs have thumbs, but none of them use them to create things. The fact that our thumb opposes the other 4 fingers is one very important thing that separates us from the rest of our animal neighbors. With the opposable thumb, our ancestors made weapons, harnessed fire, fashioned tools and implements, created works of art, and hitchhiked. Our hands make us creative beings, just like Deity. And the thumb is the key to our hands' success. Therefore, I've made the following conclusions. 1. The hand of the Creator, or the creative mechanics of the universe, must be an absolute unity, represented by the thumb, that executes its creative power through a 4-fold process, represented by the 4 fingers. This, I believe, is the primary reason our venerable ancestors worshipped one God whose name is composed of 4 letters, Yod, He, Vav, He. 2. The Hebrew word for hand is Yod, spelled Yod, Vav, Dalet. Yod is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet and the fundamental letter of the alphabet, because as my father taught me, Yod is a flame. Blow upon it and you form all the other letters of the alphabet. Yod represents the number 10 in our system of counting. Furthermore, we can see that the holy number 4 itself contains the number 10. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. Conclusion. After meditating upon myself and my hand, I include there is one God who creates through a 4-fold process and ultimately manifests through 10 levels of expression. For this reason, I contend that the numbers 1, 4, and 10 be considered holy and of primary importance to our study. Final note. Dear Dr. Rowe, this essay is 398 words at length. Do I get extra credit? Signed, Shekinah, son of Yehiel. Now that's Kabbalistic thought. Okay. Now Rabbi Ben Clifford says, look hard enough at anything, you'll eventually see everything. The assignment was, of course, to, let's see, the assignment technically was because each of us is made in the image of Deity, think about yourself and write a 300-word essay on the creative nature of God. Okay. Now, here's essay number 2, submitted by Ramia, son of Yeziah. I'm sure I speak for the entire class when I say that I'm filled with great admiration for my classmate, Shekaniah, son of Yehiel, whose dissertation yesterday on the creative nature of God was a thrilling display of logic and insight. I agree wholeheartedly with his conclusions and wish to use them as foundation of further instruction. I think we can all agree that the creative power of a human hand with its opposable thumb is a key characteristic that separates humans from other forms of terrestrial life. It is also very logical that we, being created in the image of God, should conclude that God is an absolute monad who executes its creative power through a fourfold process. This supports our tradition of the four Kabbalistic worlds, which are mirrored in humans by the four parts of the soul, and should earn our veneration for the number 1 and 4. Brother Shekaniah also pointed out that because the word Yod, or hand, is the 10th letter of the sacred alphabet, and that Yod represents the number 10, we should hold the number 10 in high regard as well. Also, we must remember that we have 2 hands, with a total of 10 fingers. This, in fact, underscores the importance of the number 10. I now wish to point out that the word Yod, Y-V-D, or Yod Vav Dalet, spelled in full, adds to the number 20. Which reminds us that we, and therefore God, have 20 digits. For, as the wise cobbler said, we mustn't forget our toes. Now you may ask, is 20 as significant and holy as the number 1, 4, and 10? I say no, because our 10 toes, while providing a certain symmetry to our bodies, do not exactly set us apart from other less spiritually endowed creatures. But in between our 2 sets of fingers, there's one thing that does: our tongue. We have a tongue, the power of speech. Through speech, we communicate and inform, just as Deity does. Through speech, we create images in our minds and in the minds of others, just like Deity does. Through speech, we give names to all things in our environment and organize our thoughts, just as Deity does. Through speech, we bless and curse our friends and enemies, just as Deity does. Through speech, we command, subjugate, and exploit anyone whose will is weaker than our own, just as Deity does. Finally, between our 2 sets of toes is another member that actually gives us the power to create other human beings in our own image. True, humans are not the only creatures who reproduce, but our father Abraham entered into a covenant with the Deity, a covenant sealed by a curious gesture of mutilation. The rite of circumcision not only symbolizes our obedience to God, but our acknowledgement to ourselves that we can master and control our sexual drives for the greater good of family, our race, and humanity in general. Conclusion. And remember, this is just one student's essay. Ramia, son of Uzziah. I think we can all agree that our unique powers of speech and the godlike power of creation, both men and women, carry in their loins, certainly qualify as divine characteristics and elevate the marvelous number 22 to equal status with 1, 4, and 10. As our Holy Hebrew alphabet is composed of 22 letters, I think there can be no debate on this matter. Okay, that's the end of that assignment. Those were the two winning essays for that assignment. But here's Dr. Rowe's assignment number 2, role playing. You are the deity. You have not created anything. How would you go about making everything in the universe out of your oneness? Extra credit? Discover other holy numbers. Winning essay submitted by Zabad, son of Aziza. After studying the last few essays, I have to confess that I am a little embarrassed to share the fruits of my meditations. I don't come from the big city like most of my fellow students, and so I guess the wheels of my mind naturally seek out ruts of homelier byways of deliberation. All I know is that if I were deity before creation, I must have been very lonely. Being the only and absolute being, I might not even realize the nature of my own being. I symbolize this pre-creational state as a simple circle. I have chosen this figure because the circle has no beginning or end, and designated by the holy number 1. Now, since I am one and absolute, it follows that 1 is the only real number, the only legitimate reality. As deity, I think I'd be quite happy in my condition of oneness and leave it at that. But something clearly happened to induce me to create. In order for me to create the many things in the universe, I would need to create more numbers. I think it happened like this. I was alone and bored, and I began to ponder the nature of myself. What am I? This was difficult because I was the only one. I had nothing else with which to compare myself. I wasn't a this or a that because I had not yet created thises and that's. I was the absolute. There was no outside of me. I could not hold up a mirror and look at my image and say, oh, look, I'm one of those. I could, however, with a great stillness and concentration, turn the focus of my attention inward, and like the holy men of India, observe my perfect reflection at the very center of my being. I would then, for the first time, be conscious of myself. I am this, I would shout. Even instantly, as these words echoed in my absoluteness, I would fall from my pristine state of singularity, for I would now have to admit the concept of 2. Myself, I am, and my reflection. This. Oh, curse the moment I ever brought 2 into existence, because the moment myself became conscious of my reflection, my not self, a third concept was created. That is, the knowledge of the difference between the self and the not self. I am this, but this is not I. The third condition. Conclusion. I assert that creation commenced when deity stirred from undistracted ecstasy and became self-conscious, an act which transformed its self-existence as the inscrutable divine unity into its self-image as the deity of creation. Therefore, I suggest we also consider the number 3, one of our primary holy numbers. Signed, Zabad, son of Aziza. Okay. Winning essay number 2, submitted by Zozabad, son of Shemiah. My compliments to Zabad, son of Aziza, for his wonderful essay on the holy number 3. I'm sure he would have gone on to enlighten us further had he not been in such a hurry last night to slink off to West Bethany so he could accidentally bump into someone else's girlfriend at a certain off-limits inn and ply her with pomegranate fizzies while his classmates stayed up late working on this assignment. Be that as it may, my self-control and dedication to study has rewarded me with the following. Since 2 and 3 are merely attributes of 1, they should be considered along with the number 1 as a Trinity unit. There's that Trinity unit. It's just, in a sense, one thinking about itself. This Trinity unit then behaves precisely in the same manner as the original 1 did when it reflected itself to become 2. It reflects itself to create a second Trinity unit, a reflected Trinity unit. A third Trinity unit is instantly created in the same way that the original 3 was instantly created upon the birth of 2. Starting to look familiar? First Trinity unit, supernal triad. Second Trinity unit, created by reflection. Third Trinity unit, third condition created simultaneously with the second. Conclusion. As Zabad concluded, creation commences when deity defines itself and becomes self-conscious in a 3-part act which defines 1 as an abstract and unmanifest trinity, the supernal triad. But what Zabad was apparently too distracted to realize was that deity cannot stop at self-knowledge. Momentum has been established which will result in a further series of 6 phenomenal emanations by which the universe will categorize itself and organize itself in infinite potentialities. The following diagram will illustrate this. Okay, let's see here. The divine light, the first projection, form the supernal triad. Then shatters like sunlight through a prism and filters through the next descending emanations. And finally, manifests from our point of view on the material plane, Earth, or the number 10. I believe that 10 hangs from the 3 triads like a cosmic dingleberry and provides an environment, a kingdom, that traps the diffused and crystallized divine light inside a prison of matter. We live in this kingdom. It is the lowest of the emanations. It is where the divine light vibrates at its lowest frequency. It is where the invisible becomes visible. Signed, Josabad, son of Shemiah. Okay, those are the first winning essays on the assignment that was technically called Think About Yourself, then write a 300-word essay on the creative nature of God. And in these essays, you can see how Kabbalistic thinking is developing in such a way as to create for us this tree of life diagram. Now it goes on, but we're out of time for today. Perhaps if anybody cares to hear the next installment, you can join me for Sunday school tomorrow. And we will see how all of this turns out, and perhaps how the tree of life as we generally know it today develop by just Kabbalistic thinking. So until tomorrow and Sunday school, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.